This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you may have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 28th of April, 2022. I am Miss Hope.
I am AX.
And I am your host, GK. In case you missed the headlines, here they are. The Daily Nation. Raila to share power with Chief Minister.
Interesting.
The Standard. Secrets of Day Kibaki was sworn in at dusk. The Star. Without me, Raila will lose to RUTO. Kalonzo. And finally, the People Daily. Very simple. United in grief. Okay? So before we take into these headlines, Ms. Pope, what do you have to tell us today?
So today I would like to discuss incremental defeat and being your own worst enemy.
Okay.
And I will begin by talking about the United States of America. The story of American deployment to foreign soils since Vietnam is largely a story of wishful thinking.
Amen.
Let's face it, in spite of American superior technology and firepower, they have proven over and over again that technology alone is not enough to give one a military edge to crush one's enemies.
Preach, Miss Pope.
When it comes to America's lousy track record in fighting wars, truth be told, they just could be their own worst enemies. Ever since the catastrophe in Vietnam, their other failures have been Lebanon in 1983, Somalia in 1993, and Afghanistan and Iraq revealed their ignorance in tactics and culture of foreign soil.
Testify.
In sum, for the last half a century, America's extraordinary power and resources have been squandered fighting the wrong wars, in the wrong places, at the wrong time.
Yes.
What is my point here?
Tell us.
William RUTO has been fighting the wrong wars in the wrong places at the wrong time. And in so doing, the only person he is defeating is himself.
That's a fact, to be honest.
A few months ago, RUTO had managed to conduct 135 rallies in just 30 days.
Yep.
This is equivalent to 4.5 rallies per day.
Yep.
Assuming that each rally costs about 3 million shillings, that is fueling his chopper and motorcade, buying lunch for his staff and entourage, and dishing out the rest of the money to mamambogas.
That even feels like an understatement, undervaluing.
Yes, this means that he was spending 12 million a day. Now, 12 million daily times the 30 days he apparently campaigned back to back equals to nearly 400 million.
What?
This was not sustainable.
Yeah.
In the last few weeks, he has slowed down. And he has slowed down 100 days to the election.
When he should be adding pace.
Exactly, when his opponent is just picking up things. Next, he dismantled his party after promising a free, fair, and open party primaries. So 3 weeks to the party primaries, he suddenly changed his mind and called for consensus candidates, which really was not consensus. And as a result, UDA began losing strategic players. Players like Alfred Keter, Governor Stanley Kitis, and Jaguar left UDA entirely. And more are surely to follow as the deadline to vie as an independent looms. Now, this is William RUTO's strategy for victory in 2022 election. It began when he started his campaign way too early and with all the razzmatazz of a military giant.
Say that again.
We should have known it would end badly. The wrong wars, in the wrong places, at the wrong time. Just ask the Americans.
Wow. Wow. So much to unpack there.
Yes.
AX, what do you have to say today?
All right, so yesterday, Aden Duale appeared before the National Assembly to eulogize President Kibaki. But it wasn't a eulogy as much as it was an advertisement for William RUTO. He said, and I quote, "Mr. Speaker, the next leader of the Republic of Kenya must be like Mwai Kibaki. And the closest person to Kibaki is none other than William RUTO. William RUTO, I have worked with him and will, like Kibaki, transform our economy." And today, I would like to respectfully disagree with the Honorable MP, not only on a matter of principle, but on the basis of fact. Now, as a matter of principle, where does someone find the audacity to turn a eulogy into a campaign tool? How can Duale, a man who claims to respect and revere Kibaki, disrespect his memory by taking his 5 minutes to lead the nation in mourning him and turning it into a way to praise RUTO? In so doing, is he suggesting that Kibaki's life is only significant and only worth remembering because it supports RUTO's presidential ambitions? These are the implications of Duale's performance, because what he did was not an act of mourning, but the realization of political theater. On the basis of fact, however, I believe Duale is peddling falsehoods. Actually, worse, he is peddling fantasies on behalf of his boss, Arab RUTO. Clearly, they are employing Law 32 of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Law 32 advises that to attain and remain in power, you must play to people's fantasies. No one likes the truth. The truth is often avoided because it is ugly and unpleasant. And in politics, you never promise a gradual improvement through hard work. Instead, you promise the moon, the great and sudden transformation, a pot of gold. And for Kibaki, or rather, and for country, Kibaki is seen as our pot of gold, whether or not this holds up in fact or not. The key to fantasy is distance. That distance has allure and promise and seems simple and problem-free. What you are offering then should be ungraspable. And what is more intangible and ungraspable than the memory of a man who cannot defend his integrity? There is only one problem with Duale's argument. The distance between the fantasy Duale is promising and the reality of who RUTO is are not as far as either of them would like. As Duale bemoans the level of public debt, he fails to mention that RUTO was there when all this problematic debt was acquired, and he said nothing. As Duale declares that RUTO is the closest to Kibaki, he forgets that where Kibaki championed free primary education, RUTO allegedly stole primary school land and tear-gassed the children who were fighting for their right to an education.
He did.
So, once again, I ask, where does someone find the audacity to turn a eulogy into a campaign tool, to take the memory of a man instrumental to this nation's history and bastardize it before his body has even touched the soil? And what kind of man, what kind of leader sits there and lets it happen?
Wow.
I've had a lot to say. I was feeling
Yeah.
it.
Ooh. Wow. Okay. So as we all head into the long weekend, I would like to leave the country with a message to reflect upon. This weekend, we lay to rest the third president of our republic. That is, of course, Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki. And as we do so, we must ask ourselves, how best can we protect and build upon the legacy that Kibaki left behind? Recently, Professor Mutahi Gunyi considered a thought. At this crucial point in our history, does country require a leader that represents change or one that represents continuity? Now, continuity is about consistency and clarity of vision. It is building upon the work of others using the same blueprint. Picture our republic as a house, if you will. The first step is to build a strong foundation and then build up from there. If the next person comes and tears down the foundation of the house to build their own house, you will end up with an unfinished house. That's just as simple as it is. This is the same case for a nation's development. In most elections, there are two types of candidates. One that represents, as I've described, continuity, and another that represents change. For example, in 2002, Kibaki represented change, the upending of the status quo and the years of Nyayo. And in 2013, President Uhuru represented continuity. President Uhuru took the work of Mwai Kibaki and used that foundation that Kibaki laid to grow structures and multiply the development. Take the Lamu Port as an example. The Lamu Port was conceptualized when Mwai Kibaki was finance minister back in 1972. It was launched by President Kibaki 40 years later in 2012. President Uhuru took this dream and completed it. Without continuity, this would still be a pipeline dream by our forefathers. In our view, the 2022 election needs a candidate who represents both change and continuity. Such a candidate only comes about once in a generation. in America in 2020, they had this type of candidate in Joe Biden. He represented change because he was vastly different from Donald Trump. But he also offered continuity because he was offering America a chance to return to a pre-Trump era of democracy. In this 2022 election, Raila represents this paradoxical combination of change and continuity. Allow me to explain. The next leader will have a responsibility to build on what President Uhuru and President Kibaki will have left behind. And Raila, considering his history and vision, is the best candidate to continue this development. He was a key figure in the development of the Thika Superhighway. He was also involved in the development of our Vision 2030, a document that was built upon Sessional Paper number 10 of 1965. We can call this our nation's blueprint. And with the 6,000 shillings social safety net, he is building upon expanding the social welfare structures that were developed by President Uhuru Kenyatta. The Raila change, in this case, is also about correction of course. In 2002, Raila said the words Kibaki Tosha. Just like Jaramogi refused independence without Kenyatta in the fight and struggle for our nation's independence. Without these historic moments of selflessness, who knows where our nation would be? And yet, the presidency has often felt like it belonged to just two tribes. This is the change that Raila represents. He will not tear down the foundations built by President Kibaki and President Kenyatta, but alter the psyche of every Kenyan to believe that they too can be president one day.
Incredibly powerful belief.
Yes, so we have a three-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines for you. We ask ourselves these three questions. Is the headline topical or speculative? Is it repetitive or groundbreaking? And is it thoughtful or just plain lazy? So let me reread for you guys the headlines. Daily Nation, Raila to share power with Chief Minister. The Standard, secrets of day Kibaki was sworn in at dusk. The Star, without me, Raila will lose to Ruto. That is the words of Kalonzo. And surprise there. And People Daily, united in grief. So I think we can first and foremost toss the Daily Nation because it is in entirety speculation.
Yes,
if you read the first few statements, you can see that it's statement allegedly. So it's not necessarily true. So the Standard, the Star, and the People Daily.
So
I think the Star we can also toss.
Yes,
not necessarily true.
And also now that the candidates have a little bit extra time, thanks to the IEBC, they now have until May 16th to choose their DPs. I really think they should take a break. Enjoy this long holiday, Mr. Kalonzo.
Yes.
Campaigning for yourself is hard.
It's been
Relax.
hard. It's true. So People Daily is united in grief, or the Standard, secret of day Kibaki was sworn in at dusk. So
my issue with the Standard is that of timing. Like, had they done this headline in early on in the week, I'm not saying it would have won the winning headline, but it would have had more of a fighting chance because it's a bit weird that they're reminding us of one of the darkest days in our nation's history right before
the day before
we bury him. So
I would give it to the People Daily. The only problem I have with the People Daily is I feel this week they have been very consistent with the 3-word headlines connected to President Kibaki. I feel maybe it's getting a bit much, but so it's either we park the People Daily or we give it the winner. So what do you guys feel? Do we just park it?
Park it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have no winning headline, but the People Daily is not trashed. Okay, on to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a 3-part criteria that we use to break them down for you. We ask ourselves these simple 3 questions. Number 1, is the cartoon humorous or is it dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And finally, is it effective or just plain lazy? So, Miss AX, why don't you lead us with the Standard?
All right, so as GK has so correctly said, I will be describing the Standard cartoon to you. The cartoon on your screen depicts IBC poll volunteers addressing a room full of caricatures of politicians. There you see a vulture, you see a hyena, you see several hyenas, I believe.
And these are the MP crews.
Yes, you see a pig, and then you see a faceless man, and they are all sipping wine, just having fun. And the IBC poll volunteer asks this group of representatives, have you guys registered to vote in the coming elections? To which they all look expressionless. My thoughts in this cartoon in particular is that it is relevant. I'm just not sure if it's relevant now. Right, I would have loved to see the caricaturized MPs have a response of their own to better complete this cartoon.
So it's like a piece missing. Okay, Ms. Pope, why don't you take us through the Daily Nation?
So the Daily Nation, we have the caricatures of Sonko.
His feet are being massaged.
They're being stretched.
They're being stretched.
Stretched by Kalonzo to make them fit the big shoes of the gubernatorial seat. And on this other side, we have Raila, who is fitting Sharif Nasir, who actually seems to have big feet that can fit the shoes.
But it looks like both feet are just going in
one shoe.
And
my comment would be the electorate should be consider the caliber of leaders that we are choosing. Really.
I think it's a funny cartoon.
It is.
It talks about the apt situation, but yes, I agree with you, Miss Pope, on that sentiment. So finally, let's go to the Star, where we're seeing a little situation here. So you have Raila is attending his wife's rorashio, and he's gone there and he's pick my running mate. That's the statement there. And you have the ladies in the shuka. One of them at the back there in the green looks like it's Martha Karua. I'm assuming the other two are probably PK and maybe Munya or others or Sabina Chege, I don't know. And then there's a cafes there with a watermelon shuka.
Pick me, teacher.
Who's there? Pick me, teacher. Hands very strong in the air.
Not understanding the game.
Breaking the rules of Rurashio, of Kikuyu tradition. Of unveiling. So it's a very, very, very funny cartoon.
It is.
I think very apt as to the situation in terms of Kalonzo.
And if I may, with my ignorance, I would like to proffer some unsolicited advice to Mr. Kalonzo. You need to calm down a little bit. Just ever so slightly.
As Prof said, he has the chance to be the king in waiting.
Yes.
He just has to be patient. And bide his time. Learn that from Kibaki. He was very patient.
Very patient.
So, does that mean we're giving the Star our winning cartoon?
Yes, Ozone has been on it for a while.
Okay, so Ozone and the Star get our winning cartoon. So, kindly don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are also on your TV screens. Find us on Pang, Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times. And hit that like button on YouTube. And I will leave you with 2 quotes because it's a long weekend. There's a lot to reflect. And I couldn't decide amongst the 2 I have. So we'll start with Abraham Lincoln, where he says, in the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years.
Wow.
And I will close with a quote by none other than the man himself, Mwai Kibaki, where he says, leadership is a privilege to better the lives of others. It is not an opportunity to satisfy personal need. Thank you so much for watching.
Enjoy the long weekend.